Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling something pretty wild. We're looking at exactly how social commerce is completely rewiring the way consumers shop as we head into 2026. We're going to really focus in on the massive growth opportunities popping up in the global market and, critically, how omni-channel strategies are being totally rebuilt from the ground up to keep up. If you want a front row seat to the future of retail, well, let's just dive right in.
Okay, $1 trillion. Just let that number sink in for a second. Global social commerce sales are actually projected to smash right through that 1 trillion mark by 2029. It's huge. I mean, this is absolute, undeniable proof that shopping on social media, it's not just some cute side hustle or a fleeting trend anymore. It is literally the main economic engine that's redefining the entire global retail industry.
Now, the core philosophy driving this whole massive shift is actually pretty simple. It's the idea that social commerce brings the store directly to the customer, rather than trying to drag them over to some separate online store. To win in 2026, you basically have to pack up your entire storefront experience and move it right into the digital spaces where your customers are already hanging out.
So, here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off by looking at this new era of shopping in 2026 and exactly why social commerce is winning the battle for attention. Then, we'll map out where this global market explosion is actually happening, touch on the evolution of flexible payments, and finally, we'll break down the new omni-channel strategy revolution so you can walk away with some real, actionable tactics.
All right, let's jump right into this new era of shopping for 2026. We're seeing a massive shift away from intent-driven shopping, where you actively search for a product, towards entirely passive discovery.
And honestly, the scale of this shift is just mind-blowing when you look at the data. We're talking over 5 billion active social media users globally, and they're spending, on average, 141 minutes a day scrolling. But here's the real kicker. 67% of consumers are now making at least one purchase directly on a social platform every single month. Plus, with 93% of them accessing these platforms via their phones, that little screen in your pocket has basically become the largest shopping mall on Earth.
So, why exactly is social commerce winning so decisively? Well, it really comes down to one core battle: friction versus flow. When you compare the two, it's pretty obvious. Traditional e-commerce is just packed with friction, right? You have to search, click out of the app, add items to a cart, fill out those endlessly long forms, and that's exactly why we see a massive 86% mobile cart abandonment rate. People just give up. But social commerce, it operates in this state of total psychological flow. You're passively discovering things, scrolling smoothly, and then bam! You do a native checkout right there in the app without ever breaking your attention.
And it's that totally seamless social environment that strips away the friction and really builds trust. Think about it. The old problem with online shopping was that you couldn't really see the product. Now, authentic user-generated content totally solves that. In fact, purchase intent actually shoots up by 91% when buyers see real photos and videos from real people. Throw in interactive live shopping, augmented reality try-ons that let you practically wear the item through your screen, and micro-influencers hitting engagement rates of nearly 4%, and suddenly the risk of buying just vanishes.
Which brings us to the global market explosion. Let's map out exactly where the real hotspots are as we look at 2026.
You might be surprised, but the most aggressive innovation isn't happening where you might think. It's actually emerging markets like India, Indonesia, and Brazil that are leading the charge globally. Because of super rapid smartphone penetration and everyone jumping onto digital payments, these markets completely leapfrogged the old desktop e-commerce infrastructure. They basically bypassed the whole traditional web store era entirely, and social media is just their default shopping space now.
So what exactly are all these billions of users impulse buying right now? Well, apparel is absolutely dominating the space at over 25%. That's followed pretty closely by beauty products at 19.4% and home goods at 13.5%. And honestly, it makes total sense. Highly visual, lifestyle-oriented products are just a perfect, natural fit for a beautifully curated social feed.
Now, let's talk about the money. Specifically, the evolution of flexible payments that are essentially funding this massive social shopping boom. $560.1 billion. That is the projected global volume for the buy now, pay later sector in 2025. It's a staggering amount of money. This massive financial engine is really the quiet force operating behind the scenes, making all these rapid, frictionless purchases possible.
But, this buy now, pay later dynamic is definitely a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's expected to hit around 670 million users by 2028, mostly driven by Gen Z and millennials, by the way. It totally removes that final bit of checkout hesitation by breaking purchases down into nice, interest-free chunks, which obviously skyrockets conversions. But on the flip side, because it's so incredibly frictionless, brands have to be really careful. Regulators globally are starting to crack down heavily to make sure consumers aren't accidentally drowning in hidden debt.
So, with all these massive shifts happening, new habits, rapid global adoption, super smooth payment methods, a pretty urgent question comes up. How on earth does a brand actually pull all these scattered touchpoints together into one cohesive strategy?
And that leads us to the omni-channel strategy revolution. Let's open up the playbook for 2026.
The real aha moment here is realizing that the modern consumer journey, it's definitely not a straight line anymore. It usually sparks with inspiration right inside a social feed. Then it flows right into evaluation, checking out AR try-ons or watching a live stream. Next is the actual transaction, whether that happens directly in the app or over on the retailer's site. And finally, it's all held together by community support. All four of these pieces have to be firing at the exact same time and connect flawlessly.
To really nail this, your native social storefronts literally have to be wired directly into your physical retail systems. That way your pricing and inventory are always spot on. You've also got to lean heavily into AI to predict inventory needs and gauge how people are feeling about your products. And it's a bit of a balancing act, right? You want to encourage those quick, in-app impulse buys, but also offer the rock-solid trust of a traditional retailer checkout. Plus, with this whole de-influencing trend happening, where people are just exhausted by constant fake hype, being absolutely 100% transparent as a brand isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It's literally survival.
So, here's the bottom line. We have to stop treating social media like it's just some digital billboard for ads. By 2026, your social presence needs to be treated, designed, and funded exactly like your primary flagship store. Because honestly, this is where that crucial first interaction happens. It's where you build trust, and ultimately, it's where the deal gets closed.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on today. Is your brand actually built to meet consumers directly in the digital spaces where they're already living? Or are you going to stay stuck in the past, just waiting around for a click to your website that frankly might never actually come? The landscape has completely transformed, and the next move is up to you. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.